Mesdames et messieurs,
Ladies and gentlemen,
bonjour. Pardon de ces quelques minutes.
Sorry for being late, a few minutes.
Et merci de votre patience et de votre
Thank
intérêt.
you for your patience
Je serai
and
très bref parce
interest.
que
I'll
je
be
sais
very
ce que vous
short
attendez.
because I know
Et ça ne, c'est
what
pas moi
you're
forcément qui vais
waiting
vous
for.
le
It's
révéler.
not me who's going to tell you, but I'll
Mais je
deliver
voudrais
the
juste dire un
information.
mot
I'd
puisqu'on
like to
ouvre
say a
cette
word
décennie, cette nouvelle
because we
décennie
open
du
this
Festival de Cannes
decade
avec cette
of
71e
the
édition. On a avec
71st
Thierry et les
edition.
équipes
We
décidé
have with
de
the teams decided
cette opération
to start this operation of the 3 days in Cannes, asking new young kids from France and from all around the world, when they're over 18 and they love cinema, to be candidates, if they so wish, to come and spend 3 days in Cannes in the 3 last days of the Cannes Film Festival. The only thing they are required to be selected is to send a letter of motivation. The operation was started yesterday morning, and yesterday evening there were 600 candidacies, 600 letters. We will decide to suggest and put some excerpts on the website, because some letters are talking about such passion for cinema, for desire. It's really rejoicing, it's moving, and it means that there are at least 1,000 or 1,500 young people from France, but we received some from China, from India, who will be on the Croisette in Cannes, and who will be online for the next decade. It rejoices us, and I wanted to share that with you. Thierry, you have the floor. Thank you, Pierre. Hello, everybody. Like each and every year, here is the official selection of the Cannes Film Festival 2018. And I'm telling you, like each and every year, the statistics of the selection for the first time. Each and every time we have a little bit more movies. We were 1,700. Now we received 1906 films that were screened. The rule is that all the films that are sent to us are screened, are seen. Not all of them are selected. Of course, it's a selection of 50, 60 movies, films that will make the selection. I would like to thank 2 kinds of people. First of all, each and everyone who has sent a film. It's often beautiful, and the Americans do that a lot when they say no. When we say no to a film, they say, thank you for having taken the time to look at it. And this is really a kind of solace for the pain we feel for them. I would like to thank all the people who sent and presented films, even if those films have not been selected. Tell them that there were more movies that we liked than films that we could retain, and we hope that in other festivals see those films. And say also that most of the films that have been presented to us really tell the vitality of the cinematography, the vitality of the cinema desire, and that the cinema has been said in the theaters all around the world. Cinema is doing well. Cinema survives. Cinema in a civilization of the image which is not the same one that when the cinema was born, or even 20 years ago. Cinema is still there and says things about the world, about men and women of the world, and says it in a singular way, that it's not said that way on the other formats. And the second thanks are to my fellow companions of the selections, because many questions are raised. Selection is organized in 3 committees: the Foreign Film Commission, the French Film Commission, and what we call the Third Commission, composed of young people, male and female, who see whatever comes in. Films that are not announced, films that we do not know where do they come from. Geographically, we don't know who made them, who is presenting them, and who are the directors. However, those films are being screened and seen. With Christian Jeune and myself, we see those films. We have seen those 1,900, those 6 films, and thank everybody from those commissions. And with Pierre Lescure, I would like to thank all the teams of the Cannes Film Festival, enabling us to be here and who will enable us to be on Tuesday May 8th and not Wednesday. And we'll be answering the questions during the Q&A session. And we will say a word about the new organization of the programs. In this official selection that I will announce in a few seconds, you will see a great renewal. You will notice a renewal of generation, a renewal of movie makers, of people that you may not have heard about, that you may not have expected here, and who are simply the outcome of this process of selection. When the selection starts, it never really stops, because as of June, we start to see the movies for the next film festival. But when it really starts at the beginning, there's no agenda, no hidden agenda, no project, no line that makes it that we had decided to do this instead of that. No. Given decision that were outside of what is worth being seen. No, it's the films that are here, that are selected, that are signaling themselves to us, and they are piling up, and they draw something of what is cinema in 2018. And we hope that the selection announced this morning, and that will be screened. You're already leaving, mister? And screened at the Palais des Festivals. We'll do that again. I'll start with a special séance, structured the same way. It's the midnight session outside of the competition for the films screened in the main theater. In the special seances, we have a Thai movie called 10 Years in Thailand, under the aegis of the most famous filmmaker, Apichatpong Amisetakul, together with Adia Asarat, Wizit Sasanatieng, Shulayarnon Sriphol. It's a sequence films that will be presented during the special sequence in the Buñuel Theatre. The State Against Mandela and the Others. It's a documentary film that was made from archive pictures, and not only during the trial of Nelson Mandela. Documentary film made by Nicolas Champeau and Gilles Porte. O Grande Circo Místico. It's a fiction by Carlos Diegues, and it's going to be an homage paid to Carlos Diegues, Brazilian filmmaker, the Cinema Novo in Brazil, and we'll have the pleasure to see this film. Wang Bing. His film is called Les âmes mortes, the dead souls, the witnesses of the Cultural Revolution. He gathered their memories, the bodies, sometimes the faces. It's going to open the festival when it's an 8-hour 15 movie. Other documentary, Michel Toesca made a documentary called À tout vent. It's a documentary on the migrants. We had screened Vanessa Redgrave's documentary on this issue. And fiction and documentary, this topic goes through several documentaries and films. We have seen that. It's a reality of the world. It's not always a polemic. It's also a human reality of major migrations of men and women on this globe. The film's name is À tout vent. Romain Goupil directed together with Daniel Cohen-Bendit a film called La Traversée. It's not a film about France 1968. While they were leading figures on that period, they went in 2018 looking for a kind of truth 50 years after 1968. What are the people of this country, France? Those who are working, those who try to work in a different way, peasants, workers, blue collars. It's called La Traversée. And Wim Wenders, and we regularly welcome his documentaries. The previous year it was about Sebastião Salgado, the photographer, and this film is called Pope Francis, a man of his word. It's the Pope, Pope Francis. Wim Wenders made a documentary movie on Pope Francis, and we'll see this movie on a Sunday, obviously. And the Pope will not come to Cannes, climb the stairs. Of course not. Midnight session. Joe Penna, a young movie maker, made in Iceland a movie called Arctic with Max Mikkelsen. It's a genre movie, a survival in the snow. And Yong Jong-bing, Korean movie maker, and the Koreans have a reserved seat almost at the midnight session. You remember the last train for Busan, and this movie called Gongyak. There'll be a strong presence of the Korean movies. We've seen a lot of movies of a cinema which is very buoyant, a lot of vitality. Only 2 midnight sessions. We might add some, because we would disappoint you if we wouldn't do that. The selection will be completed in a few days, with here and there some additional movies. So outside of the competition, we announced already Solo, a Star Wars story, directed by Ron Howard. It will be shown outside of the competition, with the presence of the Disney and the Fox. If we have the final authorization for this merger, it's not the first time, it's the 3rd time that we're welcoming one of the episodes of the spin-offs of Star Wars. And other movie outside of the competition, a French movie by the actor Gilles Lelouch. It's his 2nd movie. His first movie was called Narco. This one is called Le Grand Bain. We're glad to welcome him with a certain amount of actors. Jean-Louis Langlade, Philippe Catherine, Léla Becti, Virginie Fira, Benoît Poulvord, Guillaume Canet, and I will miss some. And a French genre movie is always welcome on the Croisette at the Cannes Film Festival. We're glad to welcome this movie produced by Alain Attal. I'm getting now to A Certain Regard, 2nd selection in competition of the Cannes Film Festival, presided this year, the jury is presided by Benicio del Toro. Ali Abbasi is a Swedish movie maker, and his movie is called Grants. Meriem Ben Barek, Sofia, she's Moroccan, and it's her first movie. Andrea Bescon and Eric Médier, it's also a first movie. It's French, it's called Les Chatouilles. Bigan. You remember he made a movie called Kennedy Blues. This one is called Long Day's Journey into Night. It's a Chinese movie. Son of Hossaossian and David Lynch, so to speak. I hope he will not be shocked by this description. Nandita Das. It's a 2nd movie. She's an actress, an Indian actress, who's playing Marguerite Duras in Bombay. It's her 2nd movie on the poet and Indian writer Manto. And he was a kind of Rambo and Charles Bukowski in India. Lukas Dont, he's Belgian. It's a first movie named Girl. Vanessa Philo, a French movie maker, it's her first movie called Gueule d'Ange, with Marion Cotillard and Valéria Golino. Valeria Golino is the actress you know. It's her 2nd movie. This one is called Euphoria, with Ricardo Scamacho and Valerio Mastrandella, sorry. I knew I was going to be held. So the movie is called Euphoria. Gaia Gigi is a Syrian movie maker. It's the first movie called My Preferred Knit, Mon Tissu Préféré. It's in 2011. during the first uprising in Syria.
Étienne
Kalos is a young movie maker. It's a first movie from South Africa. The film is on the Afrikaners. It's called Die Stropers. Other African movie from Kenya, directed by Wanori Kahiu, called Rafiki. Un certain regard is at the heart of its vocation, so to speak, and you can see that we are looking for new people, many first movies, and also appearing also. Ulrich Köhler, first time. Those I'm naming come mainly for the first time in the official selection, like Ulrich Köhler, the movie's name In My Room, or the Argentinian Luis Ortega El Ángel, and the Russian movie maker working in Kazakhstan, Adilkhan Yerzhanov, The Gentle Indifference of the World, Adilkhan Yerzhanov, and Antoine Desrosières, that you will not have on the press release. Antoine Desrosières, we finished at 3 a.m., and he was sleeping when we told him that we were glad to welcome his movie at Un certain regard, so it's only this morning that he answered. The name is À genoux, les gars, on your knees, guys. It's co-created. It's a co-created movie. He's the director with his actresses who wrote the script and the dialogues. On your knees, guys. It's a movie which is at the heart of a certain amount of things that went across all the movies that we have seen about the new ways of sexuality, the new relations, male-female. And you know that this poster is also a testimony to it. We thought a lot about what was the mindset, what was the spirit of the times. In January, we didn't know if it was still the same in May. So we like to take note of the news and the posters. It was the case when, with Le Mépris, we alluded to the Mediterranean Sea, when the issue of the Mediterranean Sea was not really a nice picture of the Mediterranean Sea, and following the discussions of the autumn and the winter, the cinema and life are also about love. I'll leave you 2 seconds to understand what I just said.
Antoine Desrosières,
À genoux les gars. On your knees, guys. So please note it down. We get to the competition that was started, as you know, because it's been announced, by Asghar Farhadi. Todos lo saben, everybody knows. That's the name of the film. Iranian film made in Spain with an opening that will not be French and not American, with a couple of stars who are among the most famous by the People magazine and who are not Anglo-Saxon. To say that we have, I mean, there are many stars who are not Anglo-Saxon. There are many stars in Asia, and we have Penelope Cruz and Javier Bardem in this film, Todos los saben, with Ricardo Darín. So here is the list of the films in competition. It's by alphabetical order of the directors, and hence it has no real meaning, right, other than the alphabetical order. I'll start with a film called En Guerre, directed by Stéphane Brisé. It's the second time Stéphane Brisé comes to the competition after The Law of the Market, La Loi du Marché. Matteo Garrone for Italy, for the film named Dogman. Other entry of a man who is not really, how should I say, conversely to someone who's used to the competition, even if his name, I mean, if he received an award, it's Jean-Luc Godard, and the movie is named Un livre d'images, Le livre d'images. It's an easygoing man, if I may say that, because he said
Et il me dit, mais c'est comme vous voulez.
It's if you like. When I told them that the movie would be taken into the competition, sometimes you have to negotiate with producers, which are more complex than if you like. And we wish this movie to be in the competition because it's a cinema essay, so to speak.
Une entrée japonaise.
A Japanese entry of a young Japanese movie maker. Maybe you don't know his name. Hamaguchi Ryusuke. And the film's name Netemo Sametemo Asako 1 and 2. Other French entry in competition, Christophe Honoré. Plaire, aimer et courir vite. Christophe Honoré was not in the competition, and he is here for the second time since Les Chansons d'Amour, and it was more than a decade. Third French entry in competition, Eva Husson, second movie, film name Les Filles du Soleil. She directed Gangbang? Gangbang. Bang Gang? Can't remember. Eva Husson. Other entry in competition, the Chinese movie maker Jia Zhangke. Ash is purest white by Jia Zhangke. Second Japanese entry, Koreeda Hirokazu, as fast as Hong Kong-soo, and the name of the movie is Shoplifters. He's making movies as fast as this other guy. Now, second entry in competition by Nadine Labaki, Lebanese movie maker, in a movie named Kafarnaum. This movie tells things that only movies can tell in that way. Of a daily life in Beirut, of children in the streets, of migrants, since again the phenomena of population movement are not only in Europe, and Kafarnaum says or tells a lot about what we are seeing from Beirut, a film by Nadine Labaki. Poet, writer, and movie maker from Korea, Lee Chang-dong, made a movie called Bohonin, inspired remotely by William Faulkner and some other writers and artists. He didn't come to the competition since poetry, so he's not making a lot of movies, and he's not often at Cannes. Someone who used to come a lot to Cannes but didn't come for over 20 years, it's Spike Lee, in a movie named Black Klansman. Black with KKK Klansman, inspired by the news, even if it tells a story about the 70s, a Spike Lee, an angry Spike Lee about the situation of the Afro-American community, and at the same time an appeased movie maker about the relation among communities, which is producing a movie telling a lot about American history and ending with an allusion to the present of the American society. And in this movie, there is an actor playing that should be present at Cannes, is Harry Belafonte. I said because we're glad to see him, to meet him again. David Robert Mitchell made a movie called Under the Silver Lake, which is in competition, produced by A24, young producer, which are very active in the author movement. We alluded to 2001 with the Warner, with the 2001 The Space Odyssey, and Christopher Nolan, Star Wars. It's Disney, as I said, and Lucasfilm. And here it's Universal with Wim Wenders and Spike Lee, and the young producers, American producers of today who are making the American movie, cinéma d'auteur, called author movies. It's a mutation within this big mutation of the production systems, financial systems of the US movies and the global cinema. David Robert Mitchell under the Silver Lake. This has been announced at 2:20. Maybe there'll be... I mean, it's going to be a 2 hours 20 movie. There is a tendency to make shorter films, but this trend we have noticed to do other rather short films, 1 hour and a half, 1 hour 20, or movies that last more than 2 hours. But we were nice. Jafar Panahi. It's the first time that Jafar Panahi is coming to the competition. He came to Cannes to the Un Certain Regard selection. His movie is called Three Faces. It's a road movie in Iran, today's Iran. It's a road feel-good movie in today's Iran for a man who's not in an easy situation, as you know. And he is able to carry on with his work of artist, his work of movie maker, and we will invite him solemnly. And I would like to say to the Iranian authorities that they will get a letter from us, and we shall associate the French authorities to this letter to invite officially Jafar Panahi to leave Iran and to come to Cannes to present his work and to let him come back home. I hope all this will happen because we're very eager to welcome Jafar, who won the Golden Bear for a Taxi Tehran movie in Berlin. And say also, since I'm talking about Taxi Tehran, that was Jafar Panahi, and it's going to be Memento who will release this film. Our translator, interpreter, who is here in the background, and you do not hear here, Mr. Zlotowski, father of Rebecca Zlotowski, I'd like to commend his work, said that the right way to pronounce next movie maker is Pavel Pawlikowski. And the name is Zimna Wojna. Zimna Wojna. So, you know this movie maker, Pavel Pawlikowski, who made movies in England, and he received the Oscar of the Best Foreign Movie. He comes to Cannes with a square format in black and white, produced by Amazon. I have to highlight that, among others, that we shall welcome with some other films. A second entry in competition for a woman who got the Grand Prix for Les Merveilles, it's Alice Rohrwacher, the Italian movie maker, Lazzaro Felice. It's a film made in something that we have noticed. Movie makers who do not forget that movie is also a visual art. And she filmed that in Super 16 format. And you can feel that, you can see that, the way she edited. Alice Rohrwacher, in her movies, she's with in the camp of those who are for the degrowth and not for growth, in favor of the globe that we are treating wrong. She does that in production, in writing, in post-production. So she filmed in Super 16. We'll see if this film will be shown in negative or on video. A letter is being sent to each and every production, ask them to choose their mode of screening, 4K video or on film, physical film. We even have 70mm projectors for the screening of 2001: A Space Odyssey. The negative was in good shape. It's all this supervised by one who believes a lot in the movie theaters and roles. Mr. Lalande said he wants a 70 millimeter copy so that the experience enjoyed by those who had seen the screening in April 68 could be renewed. You will see this on rolls. Tell us if you feel like being present at the screening, because we're hesitating between the Debussy room or the Lumière room. At the beginning, it's the Debussy theatre, but if there are many, many requests, we shall screen this in a larger theatre. And even the younger people will see this movie for the first time, maybe. Alice Walker, Lazzaro Felicio. A.B. Shoki is a young Egyptian movie maker. His first movie is Yomeddin. It's an Egyptian road movie, and the main character is someone who has a disease called the leper. He's a non-professional actor, and taking us into a society, in the world, in a country which is a representative one of other countries. And here again, the cinema gives us information, news about the world, about women and men in a remarkably strong and singular way. It's a 1 hour and a half movie that we put into the competition, that we were brave enough to put into the competition. You see, there's a lot of new people and young people. And this is what we wish to do, to give a chance to young movie makers. And last, Kirill Serebrennikov, a theater director and movie maker also. We welcome the disciple at Un Certain Regard. He's here now in competition with Lieto, Summer, a movie about the rock and roll in the Brezhnev era, when all of us, all those who were present, when we shared a passion for Lou Reed, Mark Molan, and the great Jim Morrison, and you name them, in the 70s, on the other side of the Iron Curtain, it was the same thing. And this movie tells this possible subversion through music, subversion of society through music, and this impossible subversion by music in the Brezhnev and Stalinian era. It's also black and white movie. I talk about the processes. Serebrennikov likes to write on the screen also. We're very glad to present this movie, to screen this movie. And after Jafar Panahi, Kirill Serebrennikov is also someone who is on house arrest, so to speak. Cannes has always been a place for freedom of creation, of presence of the artists. The story, the legacy of the Cannes Film Festival is full of such episodes, and we will invite also Mr. Kirill Serebrennikov to come and present his movie in person. This is the composition of this official selection, almost completed, with in the coming days some additions that will be to the benefit of some films, because last year the film The Square had been added following the press conference, and like Entre les Murs by Laurent Cantet, who was also a sacred Golden Palme d'Or. So thank you for your attention. So you mean there's going to be a Palme d'Or that will be announced in a few days? No. That's it. So Q&A session. Christine Aimé was here with us, that you can command the presence. She is in Cannes with Frédéric Soleil, who are also those who are taking care of you. Christine tells me, tell them to introduce themselves, to stand up and say who they are before asking their question. This is done. So you have the floor. People who do have a microphone should raise their arm. Gentlemen, please rise, stand up.
Bonjour,
Hello, France 2, French TV. You made the choice not to screen David Williams' Don Quixote. Is it due to the court issues of the time? The selection is not finalized, totally finalized. You highlight it, and rightly so, that this film, and it's not the only film, there's a lot in that situation. This film is in a dispute which is in front of the courts, so the film has not been announced. Hello. Thank you for this very clear presentation. I have two questions. Question of selfie. It was an international scoop. Why did you do that? Why don't you have films from former Yugoslavia? Where are you from? I'm from there. I write for the French press. Usually the Italians ask this question because there are Italian movies in this selection. To your question, I'll answer in a general way for all the countries of the world. There's none because there's none. Meaning that we have seen 1,900 films. The geographic split, when I talk about South Africa, about Kenya, about Lebanon, about Egypt, the geographic repartition is very strong this year. We have more than 200 countries at the UN. We cannot have a selection that will be totally representative. However, I say that often, not to make you feel better. We see films of all the areas of the world, films from the former Yugoslavia, which are really can be considered, but we'll announce the program of Cannes Classics in a few days, and we'll see to it to open this selection that at the beginning was just, haphazard. Now we have dozens of films which are candidates to countries that we didn't think that they are also dealing with their heritage, restore films, have labs, and it's important we're not coming with new films in the official selection. They are represented by the legacy, by the heritage. And this says also that they were, that they are, and there will be movies making countries. Well, so we have decided now to make an act of authority. Two reasons to forbid one type of movies. One is technical, is that since the selfies, it's problems of people climbing the stairs. You're not here with us when Pierre and I are on the top of the stairs to see the first spectators. We have 2,200 people to get into the theater. This is why we forbid selfies on the staircase of the Cannes Film Festival theater. Many times people are falling off the stairs, and so we decided it's not nice to have people taking pictures of themselves. And the other one is a more philosophical reason. Personally, I remember, and Pierre remembers also, and all of you remember, the first time I climbed the stairs, there were no selfies then. I remember it physically. There were even photographers who were there because I had a, so to speak, tuxedo. They let me come in, and I was surprised by someone taking a picture of me. He said, no, move. And get out of the way. We wanted to take the picture of someone behind you. There was a feeling of unlegitimacy. Cannes is based on the secret, on the desire, and a certain tradition of elegance. So the practice of the selfies, which is a global practice done everywhere, even the political leaders have to smile with people that are grabbing them by the shoulders, and well, we disagree with that, and we think it's damaging the red carpet. In Berlin, in Venice, at the Oscars, public is not coming through the red carpet. In Cannes, the public does come through the red carpet. So we have to abide by the principles, the traditions. If not, we can get the public to and the audience to enter to the theater through the aisles and not through the red carpet. And when we started, people said, I didn't understand the period, the times. Now it's better understood. So our decision, we stand by our decision. We'd rather look at each other in the eyes rather than through the screen. Yes, I'd like to add that it's ugly. 99% of the times come to be in the Lumière Theatre to see a screening. That will be 10 technically, and to take pictures might be interesting, but it's not respectful, because in many other festivals the audience is not passing treading the red carpet, but there are many people around who will not be able to have access to the theatre, who come to see the people coming on the red carpet. Many people are watching on TV, many people are watching on the social networks, and they don't watch that to see anonymous people. I'm not talking about the producers. It's not the producers and the actors who are taking selfies. It's people who are invited by the City Hall, by Hans. They are dressed like never, and they climb the staircase and they start to take pictures of themselves, selfies in front of the Croisette and the whole world. I think this is not respectful. You have the luck to be invited and to have this pleasure alluded by Thierry. If you come with a real tuxedo, well, okay, you can be decent. If you want to make selfies, go through the aisles and in the corridors, do whatever you want. But as much as possible, if we can stop this flow of selfies that I think is not respectful and without any interest, we will do it. And at Cannes, we come to see and not to see oneself. Yeah, you do not applaud. No, look.
Si France Culture vient de faire un
France
très beau papier,
Culture
le magazine Elle, sur cette
and
question-là.
the Elle magazine
On n'est pas très
said
soutenus,
things
donc
about
on a
that. We're
décidé
not
de le faire.
very supported from that point of view, but
Oui.
we decided to stick to our guns.
Bonjour.
Alors attendez, parce qu'il y a un monsieur qui, je crois, c'est sur le sujet. Attendez, il y a un micro, parce que sinon on ne vous entendra pas. À votre droite.
Take the microphone.
Excusez-moi, je lis Satellifax, c'était exactement sur le même sujet.
This is exactly on the same topic. The selfies are forbidden, but are pictures forbidden?
Photos, selfies.
If someone is taking a picture, it's the same issue.
Absolument.
Same.
Tout est interdit.
Yes, everything is forbidden. Everything is forbidden.
Sauf,
Except,
non, parce que c'est
no, come
évidemment
on.
la même chose.
It's the same thing.
Pas clair lorsque
It was unclear when you said
Oui.
selfie.
D'ailleurs, pour faire aussi un signe amical à nos amis québécois,
Say a word
faire
to
des égaux portraits.
our Canadian friends.
Donc il n'y a pas que
When
des
we
égaux
say
portraits,
selfie
c'est des
in
portraits
French,
photos.
the Canadians say ego portrait. Ego
C'est
portrait.
là-dessus que les artistes, les films,
Artists have the right to do that.
Bonjour, Ulrike Koltermann, de
Ulrike
la
Koltermann,
ZDF, la télé
ZDF,
allemande.
German
Une
TV.
petite question à propos des projections
Quick
de
question
presse.
about
Si on a
the
bien
press
compris,
screenings.
il y en a
If we
plus.
got it
Pourquoi
clearly,
vous
there's
n'avez
no
pas
more
opté
press
pour un
screenings.
embargo, peut-être
Why
pour
not an
limiter
embargo?
vos sanctions? Parce que si vraiment vous ne faites plus de
Because if there's
projections de
no
presse,
press screenings, we, for instance, we cannot provide
à notre JT,
items to our newscasts, so our presence will be endangered. And we're not the only one. It would be a pity if we cannot write or make items for the newscasts.
Ah là, vous applaudissez.
Ah, here she gets a big hand, right?
Alors d'abord, évidemment, évidemment, il n'y a
Well,
pas plus de projection de presse. Hein, ici,
That's
à la
not
Suisse.
true. Yes, we would like to modify the schedule of Cannes. The schedule at Cannes exists for several decades. We wished, as you understood, make some changes to question our own practices, to question the future, and which way will we go in the future? What we want to do is not against the press. It's about the gala projection, the gala screenings. We didn't decide to say the press comes after. No, the press will be at the same time. You have to know, and you know the schedule of Cannes. Before a screening, a gala screening in presence of the teams, there are 2, 3, 4 screenings of each and every movie, which are not only press screenings, which are projection for the industry, for the professionals, for the audience. It's also those projections, that screening that we wish them after the gala screening, so that the first presentation of a movie should be made in the presence of the team who made the movie. No, that those comparisons are not always holding water, but at the Avignon Festival, the plays are not given in the morning. Everybody sees the plays at the same time in the evening. And the films we're announcing on the French territory, only 3 or 4 who will be released at the same time as the festival, during the festival. Second example, it would have disappointed if I wouldn't speak about football, soccer. You had to see the soccer game till the very end to know what's the outcome. So the media worked afterwards. We are totally aware that it's going to change a lot of things, including for us. But when we read here and there that it was to protect ourselves, to protect the movies, to avoid the media to talk about it, this is not it at all. Well, of course, you have right. It has been said to us. We do think about that the pace is, we see the movies in the morning, we take some pictures. We were convinced that the radio TV said, oh, great, because we are in the instant. But no, it didn't go that way. Your colleagues said otherwise. Said like you did. So we'll see what's going to happen. When you, I'm talking about the media and print, when you decide to change the layout of your paper, we as readers, we are annoyed because we were used to a specific layout of your paper, and then we get used to it. But an American paper asked us to give an embargo on something, and a few minutes later leaked the news. So among you, there are people who tweet during the end credits. The embargo is impossible. It cannot be. There can be no embargo. A film is being screened, so everybody can talk about it. Who's everybody? Everybody is the gala projection, gala screening, and the press screening. And the professionals and the audience will see the movie the next day. There's going to be a photo call and a press conference the next day. We are making a lot of assumptions. We talk a lot with your colleagues. We're very open to that. We're saying that we'll be careful with the daily news. But everybody's daily during the film festival. A lot of media are in the instant. If we say we are 200 reporters who are the most important, and we will show them, you wouldn't like that. We cannot create a tribe, so to speak, that will see the movies in the morning. No. And to say technically, we are preparing. We were on the selection until now. And we will share about that. We are open, like some of your colleagues did, of any idea that would sound more intelligent, smarter than what we are doing, because there's also your experience, and we wish to share it with you. So do not hesitate. If you think that something would be better, some photographers with Freddy Cassila say, this would be better than. We are ready, we're open from that point of view. We wish to open up, including when we're told there's not enough water holes. We will add water holes. But there's enough coffee. Okay, coffee is more than enough. Technically, film A of 7 p.m. will be screened at the Lumière room. It can be 7:30 or 6:30. At the same time, at the Debussy Theatre. At the same time also at the Bazin Theatre. There'll be more seats because we know we have 4,000 press accreditation. In fact, you are 1,200 going to this press screening. You will see this A film at the same time as the gala. And at 10 p.m. there's always this Bazin screening. See a movie, and the Bazin theatre is not always full. So we will sacrifice some screenings. So the B movie, which is at 10 or 10:30 p.m. at the Lumière Theatre, and it was impossible to make a second screening at the same time, simultaneous. It will be by the media the next morning at 8:30 a.m., meaning that you will switch A and B movies, but the way of working will not change. You have the Debussy Theatre at 7 and Lumière at 8:30 in the morning. Lumière has been told to me by some of your colleagues is that there's so much people compared to before that for 8:30 you have to be there at 7:45 to find a seat. And this is what we want to change, to amend, to improve, little by little, thinking that all this will become normal. No, we want to question all those things. For the competition in the afternoon, nothing will change. It was the case previously. There are some screenings in the morning at Bazin, and they will take place at the same time. And I will not tell you it's the same thing. We were already doing that for the afternoon screenings, press and gala at the same time. For Un Certain Regard, this is what we have done for several years. The two first screenings take place with all those wishing to see it, including the media at Debussy. And the next morning, there's a catch-up for the media. So the schedule is not easy to set. We put ourselves at the foot of the mountain to climb. It's an experience we want to try. It's going to change our habits, your habits. I'm doing the questions and answers at the same time. A certain amount of media will see the films in Paris because the teams will want to start working. Yes, it has always been. If it has always been clear that the films being released are entitled, I mean, for the monthly magazine, of course, I know the Ashka Faradi has already been seen. Those films are shown to the media, screened to the media, but otherwise the pre-Cannes secret screenings, we have never forbidden them because we understand that the media needs to prepare ahead the items or what they are writing. The amount of films you have to see is, it's good to see some of them ahead of time. We do not forbid that. Each and every time someone will tell you Festival de Cannes doesn't want, it's not true. It doesn't mean that the distributors and the press attaché will flood the other places with press screenings. It's not like what has been written. It has been written, we wanted to reconcile with industry in that we were depriving the media with the press screenings. The media weren't aware of all these changes. So we hope that it's going to be to the best. We work together. We're open to all your suggestions and criticism and comments. And like when you press and print, you change your layout, we will get used to it. Maybe you'll find it great.
Oui, bonjour. Très vite.
Even if Kate Blanchett is chairing the jury this year, everything has changed because there was this earthquake, and the 71st festival is the first in 30 years where Abe Weinstein would not be present, but it's at Cannes that the women denounced what was happening. It was here at Cannes. I don't know if I didn't hear, but I didn't hear about a lot of female movie makers in your selections. Time's up. If there's no female movie makers, we will have Cannes with women, because it's been years that I stay in the room and there's no films from female movie makers. Thank you for your question. So we'll talk about this earthquake that you have just mentioned, Weinstein. The world is not the same as of last September of October. In what you say, we have to make a difference between the female movie makers and the issue of to tackle the issue. I don't see a lot of female movie makers. There are not enough. I mean, we don't have time to talk about that here. There are quotas. The issue of quotas that has been alluded to by female movie makers cannot be relevant for artistic purposes. Our point of view is that the films who are selected were selected for their own intrinsic qualities. There will never be a selection with a positive discrimination for women. We were systematically asked about the African cinema. Why do we talk about the African cinema once a year in Cannes and nowhere else? Female movie makers, for a long time there was Alice Guy, will pay homage to by Pamela Green. There was Germaine Dulac, there were Ida Lupino and Agnès Varda. It was very rare, female movie makers. There are more and more of them. And part of Catherine Bigelow, all the female movie makers of the past decades came and showed their film at Cannes. It's not more on women than on men or whatever else. For us to judge on the films, rightly or wrongly so. When Agnès Varda and André Arnold told us several times, we hope that each and every time that our films are selected, it's not because we're a woman, but because we're artists. Good. This point is crystal clear. Then I will add that as for others, the criterion, when it's about a hesitation between such and such, yes, our aim is to see to it that there is a balance, to see that there is a certain presence, to see to it that Cannes, because it's the largest film festival, would tend to some universality. So there are female movie makers in competition, 3 of them, maybe a 4th, if the selection is finalized with a woman. There are female movie makers, but once again, and it has moved ever since, and we spent a lot of time, Pierre Lescure and myself, with female movie makers. Recently, we shared a lot with some of them. We'll do a lot of it, sharing between now and the festival on those issues. And all tell us the process of selection is not impacted by this question, Me Too, time's up, because this issue is really overshooting the issue of the cinema. And to get to the second question, no, I'm presenting the selection this morning, the official selection, and we do not intend here to talk about those issues, but we'll discuss it during the Cannes Film Festival. Our position is simple. The Cannes Film Festival has not legitimacy nor competence to talk about those issues that happened after the hurricane provoked by what we have learned from Harvey Weinstein and others. However, we shall welcome a certain amount of organizations who are here to talk about that. The world will never be the same again, and the Cannes Film Festival will never be the same again also, and nor will the other film festivals. But there are people, because this is the battle, the fight, and they will have the floor. And this is what we will do. And what we do is wherever we are, and about the selection, we'll look at it. We are monitoring this. There are, at a certain regard selection, there's a certain amount of women. But do not read this official selection only for the competition. We will question our own practices within the team of the film festival about the gender parity. There are more women working for the Cannes Film Festival, about the equality of salary. All this is part and parcel of this movement. We wish to question our own processes, our own tradition about parity in the juries who are here for quite some time. Kate Blanchett, Ursula Mayer for the competition and for the Golden Camera, Bertrand Bonello and Benicio del Toro for the short movie Ciné Fondation, and for Un Certain Regard. And within those juries, there will be 5 women this year for the competition and 4 men. So we supervise this. But I'm repeating myself. Last year, Agnès Jaoui, Jessica Chastain, who are very engaged women, committed women, asked me questions about the selection commissions, about a female vision, which is not the same as a male vision when you look at the movie. Agnès Varda always tells me war films are boys' films. And it's interesting, and they're right. The commissions were not balanced. We rebalanced them. And to do so that the presence, yes, a female vision, maybe using an expression which should be used with caution, we tend to that. And the Eva Husson's movie, we don't want to make a difference between such and such movie within the competition, to put them on the same footing. But since you asked the question, the Eva Husson movie, you will say, like I say it, because I've seen the movie, that it's a woman movie. It's like the Hallelujah from King Vidor to King Vidor to the Black Panthers. There's no so much movie about the presence of the black man, the Afro-American man, and the pictures that are provided by the American cinema, Hollywood. But this has been, and Black Panther is also a touchstone country, produced by Disney on those issues. So Eva Husson's movie, alluding to the war of the Kurds and of the female soldiers, that the point of view and the way of filming, and you'll see that in the film. I don't want to say too much about that, but that's my feeling about this movie. Besides its quality, making it that it's in the competition, this film is something rather new. And to conclude, I'd say that we deplore that there's only one woman Palme d'Or. We don't like to defend a cause that it's half a golden palm that has been written, because there was a dead heat, and Jane Campion received her golden palm, Palme d'Or, together with Jeanne Carguet. But we would like to have another Palme d'Or. Jane Campion would love it to have another woman receiving the Palme d'Or. When she was the president of the jury, she didn't want to award the Palme d'Or specifically to a woman. She wanted to give the Palme d'Or to the best movie. And the question of the gender equality is raised everywhere, even among the chefs. Even if there's a fantastic book about what we call in French the lion mother. Mothers. The mothers are the big female chefs in Lyon. You will have noticed, Madame, that in the French institutions, when you take the Fémis, they did so that the candidates be balanced,
partagé entre femmes et
gender
hommes.
balanced.
Et c'est donc très en amont.
It's very upstream at the school for cinematography that this quota has been implemented by the Fémis, the French film school. And all the people working in the cinema will tell you that we see more and more in all the professions of the cinematography, more and more female technicians, experts, who are on the sets because they went to these schools who do abide by a gender equality. We are the largest film festival in the world, and we wish to be an example around the world. Help us. We do it with a lot of humility. I'd like to say that someone like Tony Marshall, like Rebecca Zlotowski, like Céline Sciamma, that we see a lot, help us a lot. We don't want to deliver the truth. We want to work with those whose topic it is in the long run. And the Cannes Film Festival will be an example. Samuel Pétroquin for Associated Press. I'd like to know if you have comments about the announcement by Netflix not to present any film at Cannes, and if this announcement led you to make any modifications. We have a fruitful dialogue with Netflix, conversely to what might look like. Netflix is part of those new entrants. This is why last year we wanted to testify of that by selecting two films acquired by Netflix. Those films were in the competition. It triggered a lot of discussions that led the film festival to restate a rule of the 50s that the films had to be released in theaters, but in the 50s this issue didn't exist. So any film in competition should be open to the distribution in theaters. And it's in the press, some movies produced by, owned by Netflix that were suggested to us. We made offers for two of those films, not all of them, one in competition, the other one outside of the competition, and in competition it was for the rule to be abided by so that those films could be sold to distributors. In Paris there were candidates for the distribution in theaters of those films. Netflix, for the reason that you know, that are the core of a debate, and we're glad that this debate is taking place during the Cannes Film Festival. Netflix didn't wish to release this movie into theaters, so according to the rules, those movies will not be in competition. So the film could not be in competition, full stop. The other movie, it has been said by Netflix, so I can tell the name, it's The Other Side of the Wind by Orson Welles, which is 1972 and 2018 movie at the same time. Philip Van Remzia, with Peter Bogdanovich and Frank Marshall, finished the film, completed the film, and Welles had started the editing with the help of Welles' daughter and wife. It was not for the competition, but outside of the competition. For reasons that belong to them, Netflix didn't want to present this film at Cannes, and the documentary going along with it, called They Will Love Me When I'll Be Dead, that we all think of ourselves, we'll all be loved when we'll be dead. Well, it's a pity, because Orson Welles has been a member of the jury, has been president of the jury, like Steven Spielberg, that has been president of the jury and who came back as a member of the jury. Robert De Niro tell us the same things, want to be just a member of the jury. And he had the Palma d'Or with Othello, so we couldn't take the film at Cannes. I have seen the film. Look at me, I've seen the film, because it's a desire we had. Everybody wishes to see the film. And I'll highlight that Netflix is not by chance owner of the rights. Netflix committed, and I want to say that when I talk about a fruitful dialogue, in face of me I have people who love the cinema, who don't have the same philosophical point of view that us, that others, since the discussions are very intense, and sometimes when somebody tells something we are in agreement, and when somebody says it conversely, we also agree. And Cannes is a witness of that. Well, after the previous Cannes Festival, where Netflix films were on the festival, we were criticized, and this time they're not and will be criticized. We can understand that there's no agreement given the model set up by Reed Hastings and defended by all of the teams of Netflix around him for the film, quoted by Thierry Frémaux, because the two models are not sticking together in France for the time being. However, said your American colleague, why punish Orson Welles while you have done this tremendous work of enabling the completion with the team led by Peter Bogdanovich, as Thierry was saying? It's the feeling we have. We have this regret. It was a beau geste from a cinematography point of view, started by Netflix in this work of completion more than restoration. At long last, we'll be able to see it. And then they're blocking it. It would have been a beau geste. But they didn't want to do it for the time being. The debate, the discussion is not finished. It remains open because it's not going to be concluded by just, well, we don't come anymore. It's not as easy as that. If you want to develop in the cinema world and through films like Netflix wishes to do. Netflix is welcome to Cannes. We have discussions, there's no polemic. Everybody is in favor of his or her own position, right? For the time being, we appeal to Reed Hastings, Sarandos, to say, come back, let's discuss. We talked last year. We'll carry on the dialogue.
Mon ami Quentin Tarantino de demander une copie 35 mm
de chacun de ses films pour être projeté au Tarantino will ask a 35 mm copy for his films to be projected.
Bonjour, Renaud Barognan, Le Parisien.
Renaud Barognan, Le Parisien. You announced the 4 presidents. Can you remind us the names? When will we have the full members? The 25 years of Pulp Fiction, if I am not erring. Will there be a commemoration? First, the jury, you will have them in the days to come. We will see which movie we will select, because maybe the jurors will think of will be involved in one of the movies we'll select. That's why. Our colleagues of the Week of the Criticism of the Critic also have announced a program. We wish to commend with Pierre the 50th anniversary of the Quinzaine des Réalisateurs and the prize of the Carrosse d'Or of SFR delivered to Martin Scorsese. And Pulp Fiction, 5 years ago, we celebrated the 20th anniversary. I called Tarantino to tell him, look, what do you think? We could do this. It would be great. Yeah, I'll come. I'll try to come with Uma and John Travolta. No, I'll give you my agreement. Okay. I'll hang up. The phone rings back. 35 millimeters, right? So Miramax took another copy of the 35 millimeter film, and it was a projection, a screening on the sand, on the seashore, on the shore. And it was part of their youth again. The Cannes Film Festival is there for that. We are celebrating the 20th anniversary of Le Grand Bleu. There's also a series of anniversaries. La Religieuse, for instance. Those things will be announced. in Cannes Classics, with the restoration of the French Cinémathèque. La Religieuse is part and parcel of the legacy of the Cannes Film Festival. 66, 67, the debate, the heated debate between Jacques Rivette and the film festival. No Pulp Fiction this year. But Quentin Tarantino is working. Let's not bother him. If you want to see his movie next year.
Vous n'avez pas de micro. Vous n'avez pas de micro, donc le micro, levez le doigt pour que... Et mettez-vous debout et présentez-vous. Non, mais tant que tu n'as pas de micro, Eva, on ne peut pas savoir.
Oui, pour Jafar, Eva Bétan, France Inter.
Eva Bétan, France Inter. For Jafar Panahi, the French authorities committed to help you, but how? To pressure on the Iranian authorities? It's not a question of pressure.
D'abord, premièrement, nous ne sommes pas diplomates.
We're not diplomats. We don't talk about pressions. We don't start it well. The French authorities will support us. We have to be formal and not be provocative. You know that this is a very touchy issue, and it's our dearest wish. And we wish our friends to be there, which is not something finalized. Other question?
Oui, Jamalini pour le site de BFM.
Jamalini, BFM. Why did you re-sign with Canal Plus as a partner? Canal Plus remains one of the important players, an essential player, even if politics was less in favor of the cinema. It remains an essential player in the financing of the films in France. They have shown, as of last year, a true will to go on accompanying and through contracts and financially the festival, the film festival. For different reasons, we didn't have a constructive dialogue, such a constructive dialogue with other partners. Canal Plus aligned itself from a financial point of view and from a point of view of means of production. They are opening slots and editorial positions more important than the previous year. So while our friends of France Télévisions who wished but who didn't have the time to devote themselves to the Cannes Film Festival, and they've been questioning themselves on other issues, they didn't have time to suggest an editorial program. So we re-signed for 3 years with Canal Plus.
Bonjour, Paolo Levi.
Paolo Levi. Sorry for being the Italian. There's Paolo Soldentino was the length of this film the reason why you didn't select him. Before answering to you, to carry on what you said, we have a film, Antoine Desrosières, called On Your Knees, Guys, right? By Antoine Desrosières. It's not our answer, but you know, when you'll see the movie, you'll understand what I mean. On Your Knees, Guys. It's within the movies also that you will see that those issues are crossing the movies themselves, and within a year there will be even more things. So to talk about the Italian movie, we cannot answer this kind of question because many people were announced in the media on very wide lists and who are not present. You see, you notice that many people, new people are there, and there's still a desire provoked by the films themselves, the possibility that when it was said that everybody I mean, many people told us it's always the same movie maker. So we opened the doors and the windows to people who were never present at Cannes, and we hope that there will also be the people of the future. Regarding Paolo's movie, the film is being released in 2 parts in Italy. It's not its length. It's being released in 2 parts. One of the parts is being released before Cannes. So the nature of this project makes it that we hesitated regarding the way we could show the film at Cannes. Those are discussions that are still in progress.
Bonjour, Radio Festival.
Radio Festival, May 68. Did you foresee anything? We will commemorate or celebrate the 50 years of 68? Tell the truth, we didn't have time to think of that. But the presence of Daniel Cohn-Bendit and Romain Goupil, even if they do this in their own way, will enable to open some discussions. And indeed, in Cannes Classics, we announced things, and other things that we shall announce too. And after that, we'll have the presence of Jean-Luc Godard as a sign. The presence to the world of Jean-Luc Godard as a movie maker 50 years later, at a time when he was very active, to commit, to engage the cinema alongside the activists of those days. Carlos Saura's movie, Peppermint, was not screened on that day. And we read the letters between Favre-Lebret in those days. Was very angry about what was happening at the Cannes Film Festival in 68. Don't think that May 68 is very commemorated or celebrated. In terms of cinema, it's like Léo Ferré, who said that he has done his 68 a year previously. There were a lot of new waves, a lot of movements in the 60s and in 68. We wanted to do with Telerama magazine about the selection of 1968. You had 28 movies then. And you can thank us that we have only 20 movies in the selection. And it was impossible. This is the lover of classical cinema. It was impossible to find the DVDs of the 28 movies. We could find only 13 or 14 films. Some movies are disappearing totally. Maybe they are in the cinematheques, but they're not on DVDs. But it was 50 years ago. We'll tell you. It's part and parcel of the things that we have to announce. Danny Cohn-Bendit said, no, I'm not going to talk again about 68. It's as if in 68 all the veterans were taken to talk about the First World War. I don't want to talk about 68 because it reminds me I'm 73 years old. Smilingly. We'll talk about Martin Scorsese, who came first time in 73, presenting Mean Streets at the Cannes, 72, 73. And Tavernier and Rician were the press relation people. There's a bigger gap between us and À Bout de Souffle, talking again, and to talk about Godard again, than between À Bout de Souffle and Murnau.
Bon, oui, si ça marche. Bonjour, Gaël Golen de Première.
Gaël Golen, Première. 2 questions. First, about the major absence of the festival. Without giving any names, we knew that at least 2 personalities used to come to the film festival would not come for strategic reasons. They were choosing to skip the film festival. What does it say about the force of attraction of the festival? My other question about the selfies, concretely, how will you do to prevent them? Second question, first answer about the selfies. We will say it. We hope we will convince people not to do them, not to take selfies. We hope that you will help us to do so when people will go and get their accreditation or invitation, we'll tell them, please don't take any selfies. To get to the red carpet, it's going to be said again to the people not to take selfies. And I think that people will not take selfies, and those who will be led back to their hotel, to their car, into the street. But they will not see the movie. It's going to last 24 hours, and that's it. The second question I cannot answer if you don't tell me more. We heard that, well, what are you talking about? I don't know. And the two movie makers that they didn't want to come, tell me the names, because I think it's not true. Your question, you say, you do not say where it comes from and who says what, enables me to say that the festival is losing its attraction force. And didn't give the name because you don't give the names who are not at Cannes. So you tell them Audiard and Dolan. Audiard for Jacques Audiard. It's an American production who turned down Cannes, and Xavier Dolan. It is said that it's for to be able to be presented to the Oscars. Xavier Dolan, I hope it's going to be for Oscars. The editing of the film, it's public, has been very difficult. And we have seen the movie. We wish to invite him, but he went back to the editing room. It went back to the editing room. So he said, I don't want to present this movie. The invitation was not formal. It's like a kid brother, so we talk a lot with him. He said, I'll go back to editing. So you will see this movie in the fall. So no decision not to come to Cannes. And generally speaking, the reason, it's the main reason. Regarding Jacques Audiard's movie, you know that it's a very expensive movie produced by the Americans, and it's a movie which is still being sold to, and it's a question of strategy, and they do not turn down the Cannes Film Festival, which is not true for the Xavier Dolan film. It's true for the Jacques Audiard film, not for the Oscars. I hope he's going to get an Oscar, but the strategy is totally different. It's the fall strategy. You know, once... And the film of Jacques Audiard is still being edited. I have seen the movie, and maybe, and I don't know. Well, it allows me to tell something, because you know that we are totally accountable, transparent. It's not relative to the previous discussion about the rehashing of the schedule. It's true that from the American side, it's a film co-produced by the Americans with major financial stakes. It's true that Cannes, that makes the grandeur and its danger, is a place where sometimes, when you are on a strategy of a late release by the end of the year, Cannes might not be the ideal place to show a film, because there is a danger. There's a danger because of the circulation of information, of the rumors. It's not the same. Years ago, the question was raised whether we had to maintain... We never had this discussion, but when I was going to the film festival, I heard the Cannes Film Festival will go back to September, because at the very beginning, the Cannes Film Festival was in the fall. And the first Cannes Film Festival that was cancelled in 1939 was in September. And not only for the Oscars, but what we call in France, le rentrée, the return from the summer vacation, for some films which are for economic reasons, industrial reasons, artistic reasons, that are slated for the fall, yes, more than ever. And it has nothing to do with the strength of attraction of the Cannes Film Festival. The idea is we shall not show the film because we wait to show it later. Everybody is public now, as you know. It's something we're facing more and more. When, however, a film is released at the same time, Star Wars, it's released slightly later. The Americans said, we would love to come. But if the other Star Wars that was released in December, they weren't ready. Films are ready at the very last second. We haven't seen yet any concluded, finalized film.
Ça marche? Elsa Keslassi du magazine
Elsa
Variety.
Keslassi,
L'année dernière,
Variety.
vous aviez innové
You
avec,
innovated
l'expérience
last year with the experience of Inari 2 and virtual reality and the Twin Peaks series. This year we're expecting Suspiria.
Est-ce que vous allez faire des annonces en
Will you
termes
make
de
some announcements in terms of real virtuality? Virtual reality. Last year, let me remind you that if we did it, TV series and virtual reality, it was done by 3 movie makers, Inari 2, Jane Campion, and David Lynch, 3 friends of Cannes. We wish to show the work, give news. Cannes has a series festival, as you know. There's another one that will start soon in Lille, north of France. The International Film Festival. Film remains something which is linked to the matter itself. Celluloid. So, we are... Look, we can show Joel and Ethan Cohen are working on a series. Had it been finalized, we would have shown one episode, because it gives news of the Cohen brothers. It's like a movie maker makes a documentary and we show it. No, we will not make additional announcements. It didn't take place this year, but it was fantastic last year, precisely because it was the 70th anniversary of the Cannes Film Festival. To have David Lynch, to have Jane Campion and Alejandro González Itu. We were very glad of this pioneering operation in virtual reality, because everybody knows that it's one of the strongest virtual reality sequences made by a real movie maker, and Alejandro was awarded an Oscar for that. As soon as they seen it, they decided to take it. But those discussions aren't over. But the film market, led by Jérôme Payard, was a pioneer on virtual reality several years ago, even if, conversely to what some of our colleagues, cinema festival or photo festival, we do not have a department dedicated to virtual reality. From a technical and industrial point of view, the film market is very active from that point of view. And regarding virtual reality, it's exciting to have seen the work of Inari 2 on the border of the American-Mexican border, and to see what is happening in the real reality now. Fabrice Leclerc, Paris Match. What about the closing film? What can it be? Can it be solo? What will it be? We don't have yet a closing film. It's not announced. One of the intents of the evolution of the scheduling is to conclude on a Saturday, so that everybody will go back home on Sunday. It's that the closing film should be a film that will be released. I'm always talking about the French territory. It will enable to make a link between the festival and the cinema that is in the theater. So I hope we'll find something. We'd like to go even further, enable this film to be released on Friday in France and elsewhere in the world, because it's already the end of the party, and then show it Saturday evening. For the time being, we didn't find anything. So we might do like in the previous year, we'll show the Palme d'Or as a closing film. Satellifax, I'd like to testify about the MIP TV, between the cancelled trains and planes. It's going to be again the case for the film festival, because there are going to be labor disputes here in France. What do you mean to say? I know it's not your question. Why did you raise that? I'm coming back from the MIP TV. It's a problem. So what? I mean, people should be careful when you go to Cannes, that's it. So that was not the question at all. We talk about the chronology of the media, with decisions that might be announced in the hours to come. Has the film festival an official position about the protection, security of the theaters? A certain amount of professionals complained that pirate pirating is hijacking of movies is not raised in France. Do you have a clear position about that? Are you expressing yourself about that? The festival has a very militant position against pirating. So asked by all those who think in the government and the body, CNCO and all those people, we said time and again that those years, the pressure, to use the word that you have used, the pressure was lightened too much facing the pirating of the movies. And it was time to put an end to pirating movies. We have to make regulations as close as possible to real life. We, individually, as a film festival, we do not have to take a position. We can testify in the various commissions or think tanks, but our position, individual, will not surprise you. SVOD is in the chronology of the media, is questioned because it's not in the real life anymore. I will not tell you about but when I wrote a report, like all reports didn't help a lot, but when in 2013 I wrote a report about the economy of the culture at the era of the digital, I said that obviously SVOD was not in agreement with the practices of the times, and we have to go back to what is reality. And number two of a major group of operators, and the boss of Canal Plus said to me, your report is very good, but SVOD has no future. Netflix has 3 million users. In France, SVOD is a practice. We have to take this into account. At the same time, if you want to fight against that, and the distribution of the pictures in France would be closer to the reality of consumption in our country. Quite recently, we were in touch with the authorities of the Republic, and the fight against that was a priority for the artists in general, and it was of importance to all of us, the hacking of movies. So, films about migrants, yes, you introduced them, it was very good. Will there be migrants to tell the truth then? And for the poster, Pierre Georges, the guy who made the picture, how was this poster chosen? I don't know. Was it a picture, a real picture? It's a picture taken by Pierre Georges on the set in the 60s, who is not with us anymore. His widow is here with us. I would like to commend her, to welcome her. We don't know each other because I'd like to welcome your presence and your participation. Thanks to you. It's a way for us to talk about the rights. And your late husband was very involved in this issue of rights, copyright. We had several pictures in hand. And it's not a photogram, it's a picture, it's a real picture on the set. Like the picture of Faye Dunaway, Jerry Schatzberg. We wanted to say again the beauty of this picture, and we felt it has a meaning. Flore Maquin found this picture, a young graphic designer who reinterpreted the major posters of the history of the cinema. We worked on that, and she came to this outcome. And we're glad because we like it a lot. And we like to say that. One of the pictures where we already saw Anna Karina and Jean-Paul and Jean-Luc. Anna Karina was saying something about the women, and the women said, no, we don't want to just say something, we want to talk about the next, maybe back to love, but the symbol of a man and a woman, and I hope one day we might have two men or two women. This is an icon we wanted to give for this year. Joyful, exuberant and free. We are here to put an end to the rumors. So for Lars von Trier, who is not in competition, is he still persona non grata in Cannes, or because you were disappointed by his film? We will answer in a few days. Hopefully so. You like the answer?
La femme de France Inter a parlé de Iran. Je voulais ajouter quelque chose et poser question.
I'd like to add a question about the migrants. Tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, it's the first time that we are. I can't understand what the lady is saying.
En France, c'est nous qui a créé, qui a créé et toujours les liens entre les Iraniens, les Russes, les Syriens.
It's the world of the cinematography who always made the links between all the peoples in all the countries. This is why it's so important. This is why the selection is the most important in the world, because we're in dangerous times. But we, people of cinema, we do not see borders, and it's your responsibility, which is much more important than 50 years ago, because we're in another world. It has always been the responsibility of the Cannes Film Festival, the duty of the Cannes Film Festival. We remind that the Palma d'Or has been given to Yilmaz Güney, that was not present. People were saved by Cannes. Andrzej Wajda, because he left us not a long time ago. We commend his memory, was here for a film. It has always been that. And Gilles Jacob organized a symposium about the creation and freedom when Lionel Jospin was Prime Minister in France. So we are absolutely aware of those challenges. And to conclude, this festival is not the festival of Pierre Lescure and Thierry Frémaux. It's the festival of everybody. We are doing this all together, and what you say is totally right. And everybody from his own place must do so to show up to the most important issues of the time. Thank you to all of you.
Rendez-vous le 8 mai.
See you May 8th.